So we are going to look at solving proportions today. So when we solve proportions, we typically cross multiply. So it kind of looks like this butterfly. So you would do like A times D equals B times C. And then we would solve from there. The reason this works, so if I tried to solve this like a different way, and I just went one side at a time, if I wanted to cancel out these, get rid of this B, I would do the opposite of dividing by B, so I would multiply. So I would have A equals B times C on the top, and then divided by D on the bottom. Now, if I wanted to get rid of this divided by D, I would multiply by D on both sides. So over here, I would have A times D. These would cancel. I'd have B times C. And if you look, you should notice that's the exact same thing. So it's really just kind of like skipping those middle steps. So that is why this thing works. So we're going to use this. I'm just going to start up top. We would do 6 times 4, which is 24. We would do 5 times x, which is 5x. You would divide both sides by 5. When you divide, you would get 4.8. It's completely fine to get decimals. Just if you do get a decimal, I don't recommend rounding it. I would just leave it as is. So this one happened to just be 4.8. When you have something like these next two examples, if you have a binomial, you are going to want to put it in parentheses first. So I'm just going to do that for both of them so I don't forget. Then you do the same thing. So now I have 3 times this thing in parentheses, so m plus 1. Then I have 15 times m, so that's 15m. The reason it's important to put it in parentheses is because now I have to distribute. So if you don't put it in parentheses, there's a good chance you would forget, and so I just highly recommend doing that first. I would subtract 3m from both sides, and I would get 3 equals 12m, and then I would want to get m by itself, so I'd divide both sides by 12. So I get m equals 3 over 12. Now, 3/12 can be simplified because I can divide the numerator and denominator by 3, and so the best answer is really 1/4. So again, if I do the next one, same thing. I would have 3 times y plus 4 in parentheses. I would have 9 times y, so that's 9y. And then I distribute. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 4 is 12. I would subtract 3y from both sides. So I get 12 equals 6y. Divide both sides by 6. Y equals 2. Different. So this first one, again, if you have binomials, which just means like 2 terms with a plus or a minus in between, you want to put them in parentheses before you do anything at all. Then I'm going to multiply these two together. So I have 6 times 2y minus 3. Then I'm going to multiply these two together. So I have 8 times y plus 4 in parentheses. And then you would distribute and start solving from there. So 12y minus 18, 8y plus 32. I am going to run out of room because I write too big, so subtract 8y. I'm going to go ahead and write this stuff over here. Sorry about that. So I'd have 4y minus 18 equals 32. Add 18 to both sides. I get 4y equals 50. Divide by 4. When you do the division, you get 12.5. Again, completely fine to get decimals for answers, just don't round. For the last three, the process is the same, it's just the last step gets to be a little different. So you still are doing this cross multiplication method. So I have 5 times 5, that gets me 25. X times x is x squared. If you want to do the opposite, the inverse operation of squaring is to take the square root. So square root of x squared, that just gets me x, because the squared and the square root cancel out. The square root of 25 is 5, but more specifically, it's positive or negative 5. So you have to put this little plus or minus out in front. And just in case that confused you, the reason is because 5 times 5 is 25. We already know that. But also, negative 5 times negative 5 would also get you 25. So you have to say this plus or minus, because technically both of them would get you 25. So anytime you take a square root, you should have that little plus or minus out in front. So try really hard not to forget that. Okay, so if I do another one of those, it's the same idea. X times x is x squared. 7 times 11 is 77. To get rid of the squared, I do the inverse, which is the square root. And if you were to type square root of 77 in your calculator, you're going to get this number. And again, we don't want to round, so it's best to just leave this as x equals square root of 77. Okay, so don't round. If the answer is 12.5, it's fine to write that, but we're not going to call this 8.8. That's not going to work out. Okay, and then one more. So very last one, same process. X times x gets you x squared, and you have this 2 out in front. So we really just get 2x squared. 8 times 4 is 32. Now, when you solve this one, before you can take the square root, you have to get rid of this 2 out in front. So I'm going to start by dividing by 2. So now I have x squared equals 16. To undo this squared, I take the square root. So x is 4. And then remember, we took the square root, so x could technically be positive 4, or it could be negative 4.